Welcome to Rainbow Soul Vodcast, where our Soulstrology comes forward to help you manage your everyday life, with forecasts and deep dives on natal charts and queer perspectives on the planets, transits, and more. A group discussion about upcoming transits with tips on how to read these transits in your own chart. Hollis offers years of wisdom and natal chart knowledge with Bright Hawk's positive perspective and Lacrosse's inquiry. We offer the complete queer astrology experience. Welcome to Rainbow Soul. Please help us by subscribing, sharing, and commenting and reviewing. You can also learn where else Rainbow Soul is offered on our website at rainbowsoul.show.
Welcome to Rainbow Soul, and I'm Hollis Taylor, and I am one of your astrologers here at Rainbow Soul Vodcast. And you can book a reading with me or any of the other things that I offer at my website, and you can find the link to that right in the description. And this is...
Hi there, I'm Bright Hawk, musician, astrologer, storyteller. You can learn more about me at brighthawkproductions.com and learn about my book, The Dancing Hippo. It's award-winning and gender neutral. There's no pronouns in the book, which makes it really fun. I like to say children can all see themselves in any character. So it's a story about resilience, and it's really fun. And there's a version of the ebook, which is really great. The ebook is really fun. Hollis did a great job putting it together, of me telling the story. So if you want to order the ebook, totally do that. brighthawkproductions.com. Our friend Lacrosse, we tip of the hat to Lacrosse. Appreciate what you do to help make sure the show gets broadcast every week.
And he's busy working right now, and it's complicated. Anyway.
Happy Pride Month, everybody.
Happy Pride. And it's June, so everybody's probably has different prides at different times of the month. There are some areas in Pennsylvania that don't celebrate till August, but most people celebrate in June. So happy Pride, and I hope that you are able to share this. And that's one of the things that I think is important about Pride, and every year coming together and reestablishing our relationships with each other. Even if you don't know a person, wouldn't you rather your $20 go directly to the artist rather than to Amazon? Wouldn't you rather give your money to an actual gay business than to buy from a business that's flying the rainbow flag in June? I'm just saying, I think it's totally awesome that there are some companies out there that support that. But what I'm going to say is, if you are looking to buy a book or you are looking to learn the tarot, hey, why don't you buy from an actual gay person? And, check out Lacrosse's book. Lacrosse has got a great coloring book to learn the tarot. I offer readings, and I have a book that you can get, and I also even have classes and things like that if you're looking to develop, or if you want a personal astrology reading. And Bright Hawk has a great book for any kid in your life, or if you're looking for a drum class or you want to learn how to play instrument. You see what I'm saying? So you can get these things, and there's lots of other gay companies out there. And so I encourage you, when you go to Pride, pay attention, use your critical thinking. And, if T-Mobile is there flying their flag, well, that's great. But maybe you should go over to the small table over here with the cute little, gay company that's trying to sell their artwork or something like that. That's all. Just pay attention. And I think that I've noticed a lot of people talking about this year. And I'm kind of going, thank God we're talking about it, because I noticed. And it's okay. I'm glad that these big companies are supporting us, but we also need to recognize our smaller businesses. And I always say, if you're an artist or you're a small business, You want to have good karma. So always spend your money with a small business first. Always. If it's possible, find one and do that. I know that anytime we've had to hire somebody of professional, like accountants, our accountant is gay. Okay. And he has a husband and everything. So, so I'm just saying, like, I try to do that if it's possible. If someone's flying the rainbow flag, I appreciate that. But then I also look and say, are they gay? And I try to support people like us because just like people of color, I think should also support each other. I also try to hire someone of color first if it's available. Why? Because a lot of times they're overlooked, or people don't trust them as much, or something like that. And so, and I'm sure Lacrosse could talk about this, but it's there, it's real. And so, if we make an effort to overstep that, maybe we can try to help balance the scales a little bit. Yeah. So happy Pride, and pay attention. Your dollar is your voting power. It's more important than going to the voting machine. Sorry, it is. I know it's important to vote. It is important to vote. But what's more important is where you're spending your dollar. So pay attention to where you're spending it, because that's how you vote in a capitalist country. So, and my friends, let's take a minute to do a little meditation. So take a few deep breaths and center yourself. And I want to invite you to go out and under your night sky, stand with your feet on the ground, and stare up at the beautiful night sky. And reach up for the stars with your eyes. Take in the vastness of the night sky and how it seems to go on forever and ever. And I want you to take notice of a very bright star that doesn't seem to twinkle. It stays bright. And as you zoom in on this bright, beautiful star, you notice that this is the planet Venus. It's often visible in the night sky. And as you zoom into this star, the planet Venus appears in front of you, turning gently. Venus is a beautiful planet presenting itself beautifully to you, shiny and bright, reminding you of the beauty and love and connection with each other, and how important that actually is. And how Venus reminds us of our brain right inside of our chest we call our heart. And how we are all connected to each other, and how love brings us to each other. Love is in friendship and relationships, our children, and our families and our friends, and the things that we love. And Venus lights up our heart. You can feel the energy from Venus warming your heart, helping you to feel wholehearted, fully loving, and fully loved. And as Venus enters Leo and brings in the fire within your heart and lights up those fires, you can feel your burning passion. Venus's energy to fill up your heart, to hold your heart in warmth and strength. And as Venus backs up into Leo, into the constellation of Leo, you can know that Venus is burning bright with a strong passion. And as Venus returns to its place in the sky, put your hand on your heart and feel the lingering energy of Venus within your heart. Take a deep breath. Come back into your own heart and recognize your ability to love yourself and others, and come back into your body. Feel your feet on the ground, your bottom on the seat, and feel yourself centered in your chair. And come back to the here and now. Good job. Thank you, Bright Hawk. I appreciate you.
My pleasure. Always happy to share music and Thanks for that lovely Venus journey.
What a
Venusian journey.
yeah, because I want to make sure that we talk about that. So,
Yeah. Quite the times we're living in, friends. Couldn't
it
have picked
is.
better if we tried, right?
And I want to say that Venus has just moved in. So, like, I think it's June 4th, June 5th, Venus moves into Leo. Okay. So, what does that mean? Well, it kind of means about what I talked about, which is like passion and fiery, love, and Leo is a noble sign, a noble constellation, and also fiery and passionate, and can sometimes be seen as a little on the masculine side. And Venus is usually seen as more feminine, and tends to be about love, and can sometimes be about, like, physical things like what you own, how much money you have, or it could also have a lot to do with self love and your relationships with others. So you want to look at where your Venus is in your chart, because where Venus is will have a lot to do with this.
Well, and Venus is the ruler of Libra, right? Scorpio?
No, it's the ruler of Libra.
Libra.
And wait a minute, it rules two signs. Um,
And I didn't bring my other folder over
yeah.
with me.
Okay. Oh, and Taurus. So
Right.
Libra.
Right. Okay.
So Venus rules Taurus and Libra. So if you have a strong Taurus or Libra placement, this will affect you. Also, where is your Venus? Where is it in the sky when you were born? Take a look at your natal chart. The Venus sign is pretty simple. It looks like a circle with a cross at the bottom. So it's the female sign. And Venus has a lot to do with love, self-love, relationships with others. It sometimes can have something to do with like your romantic sexuality. Not so much like if you happen to be into kink or anything like that. It's more like romantic love. And it can have a lot to do with how you express yourself, okay? And how you express your love, especially for yourself and for others, depending on what house it's in. I know for me, my Venus, when I was born, was in retrograde, okay? And I struggled with self esteem my whole life. And sometimes I still do, but I since my Saturn returns, I've really flipped it. So I think a lot happens on your Saturn returns, but the first 30 years of my life, I really struggled with self-esteem. I was suicidal. I really didn't like myself very much. So if you're looking at your Venus and it's retrograde, now Mayan also happens to be in the 10th house, so it had a lot to do with self-worth, and I used to always think that I had no talents or skills to offer the world. I used to literally say that out loud.
Oh my gosh.
And
Which couldn't be farther from the truth.
It's such a funny thing because now I know that that's not true, but my perspective at the time was definitely that, okay? So if you're in your 20s and your Venus is in retrograde and you're going, "Oh my gosh, Hollis, you sound just like me." And that's what happened. It was because I felt like I had nothing to offer people, but actually what was actually happening is that the universe was preparing me to have all of the things that I offer now. Now I offer trauma healing, I offer astrology healing, I offer mediumship and psychic things, and I also offer all kinds of types of friendship and guidance and things like that, and magical awakenings for people, and help people through it, because at the time I was going through that. So, and my Venus is in Leo. So I'm kind of like, oh boy. But typically, when Venus comes back across my Venus already in retrograde, I actually don't have the same problems everyone else does because I was born with Venus in retrograde, sort of like people with Mercury in retrograde. When Mercury goes retrograde, you don't have as many of the Mercury retrograde issues that everybody else seems to have. But I will watch other people have like relationship problems and all kinds of other things. Okay. So Venus is coming into Leo right now. So you could be feeling passionate about things. You could be feeling like you could become aware of what you love and what's important to you and how you want to express those things. Okay. And I also want to say that the thing is in this week when Venus enters into Leo like this, check it out. It's part of the Grand Cross. Okay, it's directly across from Pluto, and Pluto has a lot to do with death, power, control. Okay. So, there might be some relationship dynamics that are coming up for you. Um, there might, especially with Leo, Venus and Leo can really highlight arrogance in relationships. Okay. So, like if someone's particularly arrogant or particularly, maybe overly arrogant, that could highlight for you because it's part of that Grand Cross. And if you've already been struggling with the Grand Cross with relationships or anything else, it's been going on. I know I've been through it. Okay. And Jupiter up there is also part of the Grand Cross along with the North Node. So it has a lot to do with your destiny and where you're headed. And believe it or not, even if you're having troubles, even if things are difficult, things are actually unfolding, sort of like what I said, where my Venus was in retrograde as a kid, as a young person, and then by the time I became a true adult after my Saturn returns, and I really grew up inside when I was 30, because that's Saturn returns is when you grow up inside. Okay, when your heart grows up, when your soul grows up. And after that happened, it was like, why are you so down on yourself? Whose voices are these? And I started clearing that trauma very quickly, and very quickly my self-esteem went from in the trash can to something else. So just be aware that you could be being prepared for something much bigger later. Okay, so just be aware that there's a bigger plan. And I try to, even on a when things are hard, I try to say, I wonder if this is like how will this turn out in a bigger plan, like a year from now, when I look back at this, will this have a bigger impact?
The ripple effect.
Yeah, what will the impact of this be?
The other word that came up for me when you were talking about Venus in Leo is respect. I think it's really one of those touchy things. Do I feel respected in this relationship? Do I feel respected with this person? The people who help us feel good and confident in ourselves, we usually have a lot of respect for those folks, don't we? So there's this awareness that Venus in Leo brings that can be self-reflective, hopefully, and not too driven by ego. But the word that I would talk about would be the word that I know that can be really sensitive in relationships is respect. Making sure that you and your partner both feel respected and that you're communicating what that looks like or feels like to yourself, if no one else, right? How are you going to explain it to someone else if you can't even articulate it for yourself? And that's a lot of work in your youth. 20s and 30s. I just remember that being it always felt really big. And I think it all comes back to that self-love, your ability to recognize what feels good for you. And Venus is can lead you into good places that way. But truth be told, I don't think we've talked about this yet. most of the time in the regular cycle and circle of life and things, Venus spends about a month in every sign. And this time around, Venus will spend the next 4 months in Leo. 4 months. And we've talked about these kind of retrogrades that happen, like, last year when Mars was retrograde for 7 months, I think it was. Oh my God, it just felt like forever in one place. Gemini.
Yeah.
So this time, as the planets progress and retrograde and give us time to reflect and review, it brings a certain focus and a certain amount of energy in a intense way, because that's a lot of time in one place for Venus. So just a heads up on that.
Yeah.
Not sure how else to put that lightly.
If you're already in a relationship, or you're recognizing where the problems are in the relationship, just try to find a way to resolve it. It doesn't mean it has to end. It just means that maybe you need to speak your truth. Maybe you need to speak out loud. It would be better if. I would appreciate if. And sometimes your partner just needs to know that.
Yeah, the magic words. Would you be willing? If you never ask, how will you know?
Right. And, that's an interesting thing, because I've been in relationships where she didn't know what she wanted or needed. And so then I'm like, okay, so how could I give this to you if you don't know what you need? I can't fulfill your needs if you don't even know. And that's a Venus thing, and that's something that you have to work on. And I think if you don't know what you need, then it's hard to ask for what you need. And you can't expect you can never, ever expect your partner to read your mind. Even if they're psychic. Okay. I'm psychic and I still can't read my partner's mind. Okay. I just can't. I could probably read your mind, but I can't read her mind. And I think Spirit sets up psychic abilities like that on purpose.
Yeah.
Because Spirit wants you to be able to speak your truth and speak up and say, this is what I really need from you. What I really need is, can you do this for me? And Spirit wants you to ask for help. Spirit wants you to step forward with things. Spirit doesn't want you to have to telepathically communicate everything. Okay. And as much as we would like to believe that our relationships are telepathic and magical in some ways, they are. But at the same time, they're also meant to help us grow. And if we can speak our truth in our relationships, in our most intimate relationships where we feel respected, loved, and trusted, hopefully, and we trust, then it will be easier to speak it in other relationships that maybe are not as close. Okay. So if you can't speak it with the person that you're closest to, which I would assume would be the person you're in relationship with, then you're probably not going to be able to speak it to other people either. And I think that Spirit sets it up like that on purpose. Now, if you're not in a relationship and you're single, I just want to say that you have to get in touch with yourself to, whether you want to attract a partner or not, you need to find love within yourself. And I think Venus is really saying that. Venus really does focus on self-love. I know my experience of Venus has really been a lot about self-love, more than others. Maybe because mine is retrograde, but I've had to work really hard at loving myself. And I was really floored and flabbergasted when I figured out that self-love actually cured a whole lot of my problems.
Wow, that's great.
I thought that they were full of shit, honestly. I thought people telling me, you have to love yourself first. RuPaul says it, and you're kind of like, yeah, fuck you, whatever. Okay, and I'm just saying, like, there is a little bit of me that was like that was like, I think you're all full of shit. But then I was like, well, I have nothing to lose.
That's a great way to
I
start.
have nothing to lose. I hate myself. So
Mm.
what if I worked on loving myself for a while and just doing things that felt good to me
Mm.
and giving myself things that I want and putting myself first. And I just started doing that. I just started mildly changing the way I was in relationship. I Now my partner was not happy. My partner at the time was not Bright Hawk. It was someone else. And she was not happy that I was putting myself first. I'm just going to say. She was not happy about that. And she said she was, but she didn't act as if she was. Okay.
Mm.
And so you might change your relationships when you do that, but that's what was meant to be. And so spirit will very much lead you that way. So if you can listen to Venus and start applying that self love, you might be delightfully surprised where it takes you. Because all kinds of things that I've dreamed up my whole life became true.
I think it's really important. The reason why we're spending so much time talking about transformation and change is because this grand cross is in fixed signs. Fixed signs are the last ones to change. And you have Venus right opposite of Pluto. We talk about Pluto as the planet of transformation. Pluto is the, stuff is going to change. It's going to put pressure on things, especially because it moves so slowly. It's just going to bear down on it. It's been at 0 degrees like for
I
the
don't know,
longest
for a long
time
time.
because it's opposing my natal moon.
It's in
And
opposition
I'm
to my
very
Saturn.
aware of it. So, and then the other thing about this grand cross is, of course, what it also does is it creates a T-square with some of the same players, right? So you have Pluto opposing Venus. It was opposing Mars, but now that
Mars has moved
Mars
on.
has moved down, now it's Venus. And of course, the top of the T square is Jupiter. And what does Jupiter do? Makes it big, baby. So when I see that, I'm like, whew, could be big changes that have been a long time coming for all of us. Could be personal, could be at a much bigger level as well. But it's definitely speaking about shit is gonna change,
Yeah, well, anytime Pluto's involved.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then it's amplified with that Jupiter right there, like boom. It's just that's what Jupiter does. It makes things bigger. So the conversation about what needs to change for you inside or in your circumstances, or that basic simple question, you deserve to be happy and you're the only one responsible for that. So what do you need to do to go about it? What are the changes you've needed to make but you haven't, and you're now feeling that pressure even more. Instead of having it be a dreadful thing, looking at it with curiosity can really change the whole kaleidoscope of possibilities. And that's when I walk around going, I'm willing to be delightfully surprised. I'm willing to be delightfully surprised, because change is a coming, that's for sure. You can count on that.
Right. Especially with Pluto there.
It's been there and been there and been there. So yeah.
Yeah. And it's really
And
when relationships and stuff like that change, they change. And I know that there's some old fashioned ideas about staying married to one person for your whole life. But if you think about that, that's kind of silly, because when that came about, we used to live till we were 40. Now we live till we're 80, 90, right? And that doesn't always work out that way. And I don't think anyone should be expected to make that. If you love the person you're with, then fine, stay with them. But I also don't think that you can expect any relationship to last like forever and ever. Like you meet them when you're 20 and you'll be with them till you're 90. I mean, that could happen, but I think staying with a person just for that reason is not really. I just had this conversation with someone else who's been married for like 15, 20 years. And now she's noticing a change. She's 40 years old and she's noticing a change. And you've gone through your Saturn returns and things haven't really changed. and in your relationship, and you want them to, and your partner changes this way and you change this way, and that happens. So let's stop pressuring each other to stay with one person forever and ever. Let's just stop that. And I know that I've been married 3 times, and third time's a charm. Finally got it right. But by the time I got it right, I was 40 something, right? It took me a long time to know who I was. I didn't know who I was when I was 20. I had no idea.
Yeah, I think we could
So,
all do a self-reflection on, who you were in your 20s, who you were in your 30s. I'm 58 now, God. And yeah, we changed many times during our lifetime, and it's I'm grateful for the partnership that we have and the relationship that we have cultivated, but we have both admitted that if we had seen each other or met each other
oh,
5 years, 10 years, 15 years earlier, we wouldn't have even seen each other. We
no.
wouldn't have even registered on our radar. So change is inevitable. And I think the best you can do is change for the better. Be the person you want to be in the world. It's as
Yeah.
sweet as that.
Yeah, be the change you want to be in, be the change you want to see in the world. I really found that to be profound when it was time for me to make changes. That quote from Mahatma Gandhi, be the
Yeah.
change you want to be in the world, because there was a lot of things that I would like to see change. So I just started changing them within myself. And then my life just slowly got better out of that. So that's my big advice. If you're,
Yeah, because squares, we were always talking about squares are asking us to take action, that it cannot continue the way it is. Something has to happen. You need to make a choice, a decision, take action. The easiest way to resolve anxiety and worry is usually take a step. And you don't always have to know your entire plan. All you have to, my prayer often is, show me the next right thing.
yeah.
What's the next right thing I could do? If I do that, would that help me feel better right now when I finish that task? I'm going to do that. I'm not going to twiddle my thumbs. I'm not going to pretend this isn't happening. I'm going to take a step in one thing that I can do right now.
Yeah. And at the
So,
beginning of this week, I think that's the best thing you can do.
yeah,
So if it's June 5th and you're finding yourself trying to make decisions about what to do, and just take action, just do something. Okay? Just do what you need to do. And Neptune is still in opposition to Ceres, so if you're a psychic, you still need to be focusing on taking care of yourself. So, whatever that looks like, there's a million different ways to do it. It could just be that you make yourself a cup of tea, or you, take a walk, or you go outside for a little while, whatever it is. If you want your readings to be accurate and on point, make sure you're taking care of yourself.
good advice. Always good advice, but very specific in these charts. We've seen it a lot, haven't we? So the moon, when we start off the week, we've just come off of a full moon. This last weekend, there was a full moon in Sagittarius. And every we have 14 moons a year. Every sign usually gets one. So that was the Sagittarius full moon. And the Sagittarius full moon, it sparkles, right? It's big, it's full. It was a strawberry moon. It was delivering, hopefully something good. Now we're on the waning side of the moon, right? And when it's starting to shed, right? And now it's in Capricorn. And the moon in Capricorn is, you take the emotional moon into unemotional Capricorn. So it kind of calms down. It's kind of chill, right? Because Capricorn is very determined. It's very responsible. It's very, disciplined and patient and, cool, committed. Can also be, I always talk about the challenge side. Capricorn moon could also have some rigidity, some pessimism, some opinionation, opinionated behavior. Opinionation. I think I just made up a new word. And Capricorn moon can also be materialistic, more driven by those kind of values than warm heart values, right? So the moon in Capricorn is definitely, we've talked about the T square, we've talked about Cirrus opposite Neptune. We also have, and this is kind of also speaks to take action, it's fated in a good way. We have a yod with the moon where it's pointing to Mars, and Mars is all about action. And then the base is the moon and Saturn. And Saturn is about structures. Saturn is also cool. Saturn is often looked at as, the stern father kind of voice, infrastructure. Um, are you doing the job you came here to do? Right? So you have that Capricorn moon and you have that Saturn in Pisces pointing at Mars. What are you going to do about it? What do you want to do about it? Because you have it pointing at Mars, there's this flow energy that you could accomplish or take, like whatever you might have been working on for a long time now. It's got the energy, it's got launch, momentum, energy. I would definitely say it's about having energy. And then, of course, on the positives, you have the moon sextiling Saturn, and sextiles are always sweet energy. And you also have the moon in a trine to Jupiter. So again, there's that emphasis, that big energy. So, and Jupiter and the North Node are still pretty tight, pretty, not a lot between them. So flow energy, what are you here to do? What is yours? There is only one you, and you are a unique gift to this planet. So here's the opportunity to get it done. That's what I'm going to say.
Yeah. Yeah, especially well with the moon and Saturn, it's also going to be about following your emotions.
Listening to them, yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe not
listening.
following them, but listening to them, helping them inform
Yeah.
you, letting your instincts guide you in a good way.
Right.
Yeah, I would
Especially
say
about how you feel about things,
that.
like what feels good.
Exactly.
Yeah. And the moon's going to come into some really strong trines on Tuesday.
Yeah.
But I notice that the Grand Cross is still there. But interestingly, behind that Grand Cross is that mystic rectangle.
Right.
And the mystic rectangle is pretty much about something that you're building, something that you're doing, something that's sort of destined by all of us. So we're kind of all on this ride of putting together a new world. And as the new world comes together, there's a lot of things that a lot of people are out there doing, everything from cleaning up the environment or trying to figure out a better way to create energy instead of what we're doing and finding more sustainable ways to live in our world, growing food in a more sustainable way, all the different things that people are doing in their own way. All of those things are meant to happen. And the challenges that are happening around there with the Grand Cross are actually feeding that mystic rectangle. So it's, excuse me, it's supposed to happen.
Yeah, it definitely has that it's supposed to faded energy, supposed to happen kind of thing. So on Tuesday, the moon actually goes void because it's in its last degrees of Capricorn, but it's trine Vesta, it's trine Mercury, it's trine Ceres, it's a sextile with Neptune. The only thing is that it's square with Chiron and it's about to conjunct Pluto.
Yeah, I noticed it was approaching Pluto. It's at least 10 degrees away from Pluto, but
by the end of the day, 10 degree, the moon moves pretty quickly. Several about 15 degrees, 10 to 15 degrees a day, because it goes through a sign about every 2 days, and a sign is 30 degrees, right? So about every 15 degrees. 15 degrees every day. And maybe a little less than that. It might be 13. But at any rate, you get the idea. It's about to roll right up on Pluto by the end of the day, depending on where you are, or the next day.
And that's going to be part of the Grand Cross at that point. It's going to bring some emotionality, especially as it moves into Aquarius. it's gonna bring a little bit of emotionality and things like
I
that.
didn't see that, but now I do. It's just so obvious right now. I
Yeah.
was like, oh, I didn't even see
And
that. But
especially
now it's
with
like, oh, pff, yeah.
and with
Know any
Venus there,
emotional Aquarians out there?
right? Right. Exactly.
Oh my goodness.
Well, Aquarians can also be a little bit cold like Capricorn. And so
It depends on what the issue is. If it's
right.
something that they really care about. And for the most part, Aquarians are very humanitarian. They're
Yeah.
very we focused, very community, collective, collaborative. What's the best solution for all kind of folks. Um, but they're also Aquarians, in my opinion, are be real pot stirrers and can definitely they're associated with revolution and transformation and we're not going to do it that way because it's always been done. What's the best way to do it?
Well, Uranus is
Yeah.
the ruling planet.
Yeah,
So.
so boom, so
Right.
depending on where you are, the moon moves into Aquarius on Wednesday, and we still have that T square, the grand cross, all those things are still in play, but now we have a grand earth trine. Did you notice that one? Virgo and
Yeah.
Ceres in Virgo, and then you have in Capricorn Pluto and the moon, and then you have on the other part of the triangle Mercury and Vesta in Taurus.
Uh-huh.
So again, lots of Earth, grand Earth trine, and then when you put Neptune into the mix, you can see it's a kite.
Right.
Whee!
Right. And although that Grand Cross is still it's still
Yeah.
there for
Yeah.
this is the last week of it. But the Grand Trines are trying to come through. They're trying to communicate with us how things could be better. So you might be starting to like recognize, if we just shifted this, it could probably be better. And so the Grand Cross has probably taught you something. These struggles you've experienced in the last couple of weeks have probably taught you something, and you're ready to shift and find a new way to do things.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a great way to put it. Find a new way to do things. Because you've got Pluto and the moon. Okay, change. Gonna
Right.
just throw some emotion on it. Get
Change.
passionate about it.
Yep.
Ceres and Virgo. What are you birthing in this world? What are you what are you holding? What are you bringing forth? Manifesting. Thank you.
Nurturing. Yeah.
And then Mercury and Vesta, how are you communicating it? It's in Taurus. And it's about bringing it in. Like if if you're a sudden fountain of ideas, better be writing those down. This isn't
Right.
air energy. This is grounded energy. This is bring it in. You've been thinking about it. Now it's time to take action.
Right.
So there's some real, Grand Trine is a beautiful blessing. It's a beautiful blessing. The two squares on the Grand Cross, that's just like challenge, challenge, challenge.
Right.
And now you have an opportunity to do something about it. So happy delivery.
Yeah. And I think that we're going to start making choices. And as that Grand Trine's going to get stronger as the week goes on. So as that Grand Trine really gets strong, that's when we'll be able to really see what the blessing is. And some people might see it faster than others, depending on your own personal placements, probably, and your ability to see past, when bad things happen. Some people really get caught up in the victimhood of bad things, and can really allow it to take you sideways. For me, ever since my Saturn returns, I have had less of that. So when shit goes wrong, um, I just like we were on a trip and I got COVID, right? Okay, we had to leave the event.
We both did.
We both got COVID, and we had to leave the event and we had to go to an Airbnb, and I was like, okay,
Isolate.
and
And
isolate because can't
grateful we
be
were
at a
very asymptomatic, but it was
yeah.
still a big process. That was
It was a
just
process, and I
not
was
what we had
like,
planned.
and I just become executive function. I'm like, okay, what do we have to do next? Then what's next? And how can we make this most comfortable? If you're going to be uncomfortable, if you're going to be sick, you might as well try to do it as comfortably as possible, in my opinion. Okay. And then once we got that far, then, flying home was actually not great. Um, you know, the airline decided to strand us in New York City. And I don't like New York City, okay? I'll just be honest with you. I don't want to be there. I have spent lots of time there and I don't like there and I don't want to be there. And it's not a place I would choose to ever go. But I had to stay there in a hotel overnight, and it's almost like I can hear the loudness of the city. And and maybe some of you can identify with that, especially if you're psychic or you're a sensitive person. Just sometimes the loudness of the city, I feel like I'm constantly having to hold a bubble around myself, where when I'm out here in the woods I feel more able to just be. And it was uncomfortable for me, and I knew it was going to be uncomfortable, and I knew I wasn't going to be happy with being stranded in Queens, New York. Okay. And I knew that it was going to be a challenge, but there was not a goddamn thing I could do about it. I mean, like trying to get home to Colorado, even if I jumped on a train at that moment, I would have, it still would have taken me longer on a train. The best thing I could do is wait for the plane the next day, right? So as frustrating as it was, I didn't want to waste any more energy being upset about it, because I had to conserve my energy to get myself through it, okay? Because I knew it was going to be hard. And so that's kind of how I react to things, is I'm like, okay, this is going to cost me energy because it's going to be hard. I can see that it's going to be hard. And so then I just conserve my energy. I get kind of greedy on the energy score. But I think that that's been my best. And you have to figure out what's the best way for you to, when something hard is happening, do you want to react and expel a lot of energy? Oftentimes that doesn't get you anywhere. Sometimes it might help some things, but oftentimes it doesn't. And so you can choose to make a different choice. I'm going to pull myself back. Okay, yeah, airline, you don't get any more of my energy. Okay, because you've already taken it and you're already making me spend a lot of it. So you don't get any more of my energy, and I'm not going to bother yelling at this person, right? Okay, or I'm not going to bother to make a big deal about it, okay? And I'm just going to get through it one step at a time. And executive function happens again for me. Let's just get through it. And I think that learning to do that has been a very long process. It's been very hard. I used to freak out. I used to yell and scream. I used to become a bitch. Um, but I just didn't win. And that frustrates me. So it was easier to win. Actually, I won more often when I stayed calm.
But just as we were talking about how Tuesday there's a lot of trines with the moon, Thursday there's a lot of squares. Thursday the moon is void in Aquarius, and we were talking about Aquarius moons. Aquarius is sensitive, and it can be rational, but it can also be very idealistic, very creative. Aquarian moon, tolerant, humanitarian. We talked about that. Aquarian moon is also unpredictable, contrarian. We talked about pot stirring, and they're fixed. Sometimes they're opinionated, and sometimes they're tactless. Really, what happens on Thursday though is that it's a void moon, so it's a little less intense, right? And it's square Vesta, it's square Uranus, it's square Mercury, It's in a trine to Juno and in a sextile to Chiron. But boy, moon square Uranus, moon square Mercury, and Ceres,
Yeah, there's a lot of squares going on,
emotional.
even though the Grand Cross is starting to dissipate. So as Venus moves out, she will break down that Grand Cross as she moves out of the orb to create it. Um, as she moves on deeper into Leo, the Grand Cross will start to dissipate while the trine comes forward. So there could be the final culmination of things that could come up that could be difficult. And the moon, with its emotionality, probably is going to have a little to do with that, I would imagine. But the good news is by the time we start to get to Friday and the weekend, you will start to notice that things get a little easier.
Yeah.
They start to feel like, although I'm still going to say Neptune and Ceres are still in opposition.
Yeah. Yeah. Friday, the moon will move into Pisces, so that'll be a little more flowy. But what it still speaks to me of is emotion, emotion, emotion. And so it'll conjunct Saturn, which is unemotional. And then on Saturday, it then moves into a sextile with Venus and moves into Vesta, moves into a sextile with Uranus. It's going to conjunct the Neptune again. So now we're back into that dreamy energy, and it's going to square Juno. What are your loyalties?
Right. And I think all the sextiles and trines, though, by Friday, will start to feel like a relief after all this Grand Cross energy, after all the struggles that we've been through in the last couple of weeks. I think
hopefully it starts to soften the edges.
I feel like it starts to feel like, whoa, something is going right.
Yeah. Oh, please.
And maybe things will get a little bit easier, a little bit softer, especially as we move into the weekend.
Yeah.
Because most of that Grand Cross energy, Venus is moving out of the orb of Pluto, and a lot of that's going to dissipate. The biggest opposition that still remains is Neptune in opposition to Ceres. So you still need to be focusing on taking care of yourself if you want your dreams to come true, or if you're a psychic and you do readings or anything like that, you need to be focusing on yourself and taking care of yourself. But the Grand Trine will also be coming into play, and this Grand Trine will get really strong by Saturday. And this is going to really push you to change. So I would imagine it's probably going to have something to do with what just happened around the Grand Cross. So then you're going to, or at least inspired by that, where you're going to be like, I don't want that to happen again, or I want to make sure this doesn't continue to happen, or whatever it is. And things are going to start to come into alignment. Maybe an apology will be made. Maybe things will feel looser and easier, especially with Mercury and Pallas Athena up there in Taurus. That tells me that Mercury, that's communication. So maybe some sort of communication or something will make it a little bit easier to navigate.
Well, Sunday, the moon moves into Aries. And then, we always talk about a moon in Aries is a nervous temperament. It's, you have the cool moon in hot Aries, so there's an energy that, there can be some optimism and idealism. But what I really want to point out, which feels really blessed, is you have a trine to Venus, you have a trine to Chiron, you have a trine to Mars, you have a sextile to Pluto, and a sextile to Mercury. Those are all like, so nice energy. The moon can be a little twitchy in Aries, but to be in a trine with all of that, oh my, that's some beautiful flowy energy on Sunday. Really like that. Sextile to Mercury, everything. Sextile to Pluto, all the energy, all the things for Sunday and the moon are all blessings.
If you have something going on, if you are a Gemini or you have strong Gemini placements, or there's a part of you that is supposed to be announcing things, maybe it's Gemini rules your 10th house or something like that. Mercury's going to move into Gemini on Sunday, and frankly, I think that this is great energy, a great time. Gemini is ruled by Mercury, so if you have an announcement to make, a public thing to do, now's the time to do it, because you will be heard more likely. If you have any kind of, like, if you do a podcast like this or anything like that, you're going to be heard more with Mercury and Gemini, especially if Gemini like rules your 10th house or your MC or something like that. You're going to be heard because Mercury's going to be there. So it's going to be easier for you to navigate that energy. Mercury is blessed when it's in Gemini because it rules that thing, that sign. So then it tends to deliver messages. It can bring networking opportunities up. It can help you communicate whatever it is you're trying to communicate, especially if it has something to do with intelligence or furthering the collective or something like that. With Mercury in Gemini, you're going to be able to speak out loud. You're going to be able to say what you need to say. I would just be, sometimes Gemini can have a little bit of that energy, but of saying more than what they mean. So, like, sometimes Gemini is so talky that they'll make promises make more promises than they can keep. So just be careful of that. But I think because everything's in a grand trine involved with that Mercury, you probably won't do anything like that. You'll probably be very grounded, at least for now, while Mercury is in Gemini. So just go ahead and announce and let your heart out. Let your heart out in any kind of announcements or any kind of public speaking that you're doing, because the trines are dominating the chart especially on Sunday and into Monday. You'll need to speak out loud about things, especially it will become easier for you to speak out loud.
Yeah, that actually, I'm very excited about that. That one feels very positive and
yeah. Maybe our podcast will do really well on that Monday right after.
With your help, this could happen.
With your help, this could actually happen. So, and you can help us spread the word, about Rainbow Soul Vodcast. And right now I'm going to do a little tarot.
See what the cards have to say.
I'm going to shuffle the cards. I'm sorry that Lacrosse is not here. I'm sure that Lacrosse would have something awesome to say. And especially Happy Pride, if nothing else. So.
And speaking of pride, this is the Love is Love Pride deck, where each card is created by a different LGBTQ artist, which is pretty amazing. We're big fans of this deck.
Yeah, I love this deck. I think it's really beautiful. I really appreciate its diversity. I've been reading tarot for a long time, and most of the decks that I have white people in it. So it's excellent to see different colors of skin, because that's what our world actually has. And it's also great to see different genders other than just masculine and feminine, to see things that are a little bit more in between. So I appreciate the diversity of this deck. So if you're looking for a deck that has diversity, this is the Love is Love deck, Pride deck. You can find it on Amazon. And I'm going to pull 3 cards. And the thing about this deck is that, for me, I've been reading tarot since I was 20, I think, maybe younger. And I used to follow all the rules, and now I just read what the picture says to me. Okay, so just so you know that. This first card is in relation to our past, and this is the Knight of Cups. And this person, you know, is is very much emotionally stable in a way, stable in a sort of knight type of way where he can have wisdom. This is that masculine person that is strong, that is that part of all of us within our hearts that can stay calm and strong during not so easy moments. And this is that masculine energy that can also be sensitive, right? That can also be effeminate, I just think of every gay man that I've ever been friends with that I appreciate the diversity within their emotional heart. And that's the Knight of Cups here, with the bird delivering a message from spirit and the flowers and the water behind them and their clear cup, that says, yeah, I'm a gay guy, right? He probably has a husband. And that's the impression that you get from this image. But he also just reminds you of the diversity of even strong masculine energy. That masculine energy doesn't always have to just be tough and fighting, it can also be effeminate and strong at the same time. I'm sure we all have a gay friend or something like that that can remind us of that energy, that strong masculine energy that is stable and that stays stable even when things are emotional and sensitive. Okay, and that's a special type of masculine energy in my opinion, and that's what we've been through, right? And then this is the here and now, which I've been here. This is when this card, this is a Nine of Cups. This has a woman or a feminine figure anyway, with kind of wild hair. And at each tip of her wild hair is another cup, right? And the cups represent emotional abruptness. They represent emotional phases, because if you look at the cups, they have the moon on them. Hopefully, the camera will focus. But each one of the cups actually has a different phase of the moon on it. Okay. And it's meant to remind us how our emotions, and sometimes we can feel a little crazy. I think we can all identify with this card. We've all felt a little crazy, where we've had some emotional experience where you feel a little crazy, where you're like, oh my God, my emotions are completely out of control. All right. And just remember that it's a phase and that you can rotate out of it. You can push out of it. And because if you notice, she has a cup in her hand. And that means if you take a look at those emotions, if you deal with those emotions directly, it will be easier for you to handle. And you can only deal with one thing at a time. So if you feel overwhelmed, try not to take all the cups out of your hair right away. Just take one at a time, okay? And that's pretty much what this is one at a time, okay? And going forward, after that's the here and now this week. And by the end of the week, this is a beautiful card. This is having all of nature and Mother Nature in support of you, and being present with all of nature's gifts, including your own gifts, but also the gifts of the universe. And I think this card is very much to remind us of our connection, not only to the earth, but to each other and to every living being on planet Earth. And this is a beautiful card, a beautiful place to be. And this is where we will be by the end of the week. So recognize that although things could be hard, right? That recognize your ability to hold stable, to hold that emotionality stable, and maybe take some inspiration from your favorite sensitive gay man, And, just remember that you can hold strong even through hard moments. You have in the past and you can again. And this is a reminder of right here and now. If you're feeling a little crazy, it's okay. Just try to handle things one at a time, okay? Try not to get yourself overwhelmed. Allow all those emotions to be. And, visit each one, visit them all, and just remember that they are cycles and that a lot of us go through cycles. For sure. We go through different phases, just like the moon does. And as we go forward, remember that you are connected to the earth. You are connected to all living beings, and we are all connected to each other. And that's what this is a beautiful reminder of, our reminder of our connection to all things natural and to Mother Earth. So hold on tight, my friends. Hold on to yourself. It's going to be okay. You're going to get through this. That grand trine at the end, let it be your inspiration to pull you through this week of squares and crosses. Okay?
Wishing you all the very, very best. Hopefully this helps you navigate the week in a good way. And we're very grateful for your likes and your thumbs up and your shares. It really helps. We're trying to make it easier for all of us to have a voice and have a way to navigate together the best way we can. So
celebrate Pride with us and share our podcast.
thanks
Thank you.
bunch. Take care, y'all.
Thank you for listening to this week's Soulstrology and subscribing, liking, sharing, and reviewing. We hope you enjoyed this dose of Soulstrology and encourage you to embrace the week ahead with an open mind and heart so that you may integrate the deepest of lessons from the stars. Take a moment to step outside and honor the planets, stars, and moon in the sky with your heart. Integrate the messages that resonate and leave the rest for someone else. We deeply appreciate each and every one of you. Always remember that you are perfectly unique human with an exclusive star map of your destiny, your soul purpose, and your heart's desire. Thank you again for tuning in to Rainbow Soul.